Well, hello. My name is Brianna McWilliam, and I am very excited and grateful to our guest here, Tosi, who has graciously offered to share her question and exploration with us here on this call. So I am going to paraphrase your question, and I invite you to at any time add to it, or if you want to, correct anything in my paraphrasing, I invite you to do that as well. Um, and then we'll dive into my notes and my explorations for you.
Sure. Thanks.
So in your question, you mentioned that in the past, you've struggled with feeling a bit insecure in relationship and having feelings of being worried about abandonment or needing, you mentioned insane amounts of reassurance, or worrying that as a single parent, you may not be entitled to the high quality partners that you feel you deserve. Or you might be worried that you're too over the hill to really enjoy life and love. On the other hand, you feel as though you have a lot of talents that make you a good catch. And so you may feel like some of that insecurity is a bit absurd. You're youthful, you're attractive, you're loyal, and you're giving, and all of these things should contribute to a healthy relationship. But you've noticed that it's been difficult to find sustainable relationships because you have been winding up with people who are not well matched, you mentioned, in the sense that you may be compatible sexually, emotionally, they admire you and they need you in some way, but they're not financially stable. Maybe they struggle with alcoholism, they're unable to commit, things like that. And so you're wondering, what am I not seeing about the situation? How can I see into my blind spots? And you had also mentioned some practical action steps for moving forward. So I want to just first touch base with you and make sure that that's inaccurate.
Yes, that's exactly accurate. Thanks.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add to that, or that's pretty good?
That's pretty good.
Okay. So first, I just want to acknowledge and also validate for you that it can be super hard and painful when we feel an attraction to someone and they're not quite on the same page as us because they don't inspire a feeling of safety or seriousness or compatibility due to these practical concerns that it seems like you're very mindful of. So as a single mom, especially, and having been with partners that were unstable or insecure, I can imagine that there's very real fears about creating a secure environment and wanting to spend your valuable time with someone with whom it might lead to something more meaningful or long lasting, and then feeling kind of frustrated and a bit hopeless when your efforts or your investments, such as things like maintaining a youthful experience or being very giving in relationships, are not really rewarded. And I can share personally, as a single mom myself in the dating world for a long time, I can relate to those things. But you did ask me to help you see into your blind spots. So there are a few things in the delivery of your question that I think I might be able to reframe for you. So I thought we might explore that. And then together we're going to do a creative exercise. And I think this is intended to be sort of like a demonstration or a how-to for what I think the practical steps would be moving forward.
Yes, okay.
So I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions to make sure I have permission, and then I'm going to dive into some insights for you.
Okay.
So first, I'm going to ask you, do I have permission to be direct with you and to challenge some of your thinking?
Yes, please do.
And are you open to exploring these topics in a creative way that might require some playful and imaginative approaches, even if it might seem like we're veering off topic?
Yes, I am.
Great, thank you very much. So, okay, so there's a few notes that I want to share with you. And the first, very gently, a couple of the things that I see in your situation are that you mentioned you want to find a sustainable relationship, but the things that you mentioned as being valuable about yourself, such as keeping up yourself, youthfulness, beauty, and being overgiving, on an energetic level, they're not really practical or sustaining themselves. right? So these qualities and these values are not really long-term or sustainable. And if you overgive too much, you burn yourself out. And sometimes when we overgive, it can come from an energy of overcompensating. Like, I need to earn my keep here, right? And when we feel like we need to earn our keep or demonstrate our value to someone, what it's also saying is, I don't value myself enough as it is. So what happens is that energy, the backside of that energy becomes bigger. And this is the energy that probably connects to the parts that feel like it needs endless reassurance, that feels like a fear of abandonment and all that. So there's a connection between these two energies, and that energy winds up, the more you suppress it, it gets bigger, right? So inevitably what happens is that is going to put a distance between your waking mind, your perception of yourself, what's important in relationships. It's going to put a distance between that and the essence of your spirit, which we often equate with your emotional life. So what happens is those values, because they're not sustainable, they wind up really focusing on the external, and somewhat objectifying. And then so now we have this external thing going on, but then the inside feels kind of lonely and abandoned. And so what happens is you might attract partners that also inside feel lonely and abandoned, and then they want you to take care of them. Like, for example, you mentioned financially dependent, or someone who turns to alcohol is someone who hasn't quite figured out how to emotionally organize themselves, right? So then that becomes a mirror for your inner child that feels abandoned by you and wants you to care for it. So, but this would not be with overgiving. This would not be with youthful beauty. This would be with caring, with acceptance, with playfulness, with creativity, with allowance, with softness, with time, with attention, with sensuality, and just being able to be present with the moment. And the reason I bring this up is because the way you describe the parts of yourself as being kind of absurd or undeserving or over the hill or intensely and insatiably needing of assurance, when there's these two sort of dichotomies, it lets me know that inside you may be experiencing kind of a split. There's this, you kind of like at war with yourself, like on the inside. And so that lets me know that there is most likely, in addition to, have you heard the term inner child before? I'm using that word a lot. I just want to make sure you're familiar.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. It's from 2017, I've been doing a lot of courses, including yours.
Okay,
and the inner child has come up a few times.
Okay. So we have the inner child, and then we also have what I'm going to call a manager, and this is inspired by internal family systems theory, or an inner critic, let's say. And so in your question, I see both characters coming up to let themselves be known. So we have the part that feels more vulnerable, and then we have the part that says, but that's absurd, right? And that part is a strong manager, and some might refer to this as like an inner critic, for example. And when that appears in our energy field, we have what's called a split inside of us. And so the practical steps that you are asking for, in order to affect your energy and the types of partners that your energy attracts, the practical steps are to work on integrating these splits. How do we get these two characters to cooperate and to collaborate, effectively and more harmoniously? We don't necessarily have to force ourselves. There's a paradigm for healing that says we're all like a puzzle, that all the pieces are messed up. And if we just find all the pieces and we put them back together correctly, then I'll be a whole healed human being. But I feel like that's a paradigm for healing that keeps us exhausted and kind of spinning our wheels. What we really need to do is understand that we're made up of all different types of pieces, more like a snow globe. And what we really want to do is we want to allow the flow of those pieces to be more harmonious, that they work together in harmonious ways, but we don't have to smash everything together, right? So this manager part is likely so strong because it's afraid that it doesn't want you to feel those feelings or really sink into them, because it's afraid that you can't handle them, or that something, that some terrible outcome or consequence will befall you if you let those feelings take over or take control. And so in your question, there's some piece of this that probably confirms the manager's fears, in the sense that you're not quite able to embrace those parts of yourself as lovable just yet. Because you mentioned, I'm deserving because I'm young and I give stuff and I'm really good at performing in relationships. So why doesn't anybody want to get on the stage with me? Right. And so so the manager is like keeping your attention there. And what better way to prevent you from going into those feelings than to say, well, if you were to feel those feelings, that would ruin your market value. Right. So, okay, well then I'm not going to go there, because that's going to make me the needy mess that nobody wants to date or marry. Right. So the manager has a point. So what we have to do is we have to, what they call, unburden that manager by letting it know, like, I've got this. Hey, chill out. I've got this. I can feel sad. I can feel needy. I can want reassurance, and I can hold that. I can hold that space. I can hold those feelings and be present with that. And it's not going to overtake me. And I'm not going to fall into some depression that I'll never come out of. Right.
Yeah.
So this is, but how do I know that? Says the manager. Right. Look at what we've done in the past. Look what's happened before. How do I know that? So this is where this is the practical steps, which is we first open up a dialogue with the manager, and we ask the manager, okay, I hear you. I see how hard you're working. Thank you for working so hard, because yes, I needed you to do this for me in the past, but now I don't need you to do this for me anymore. And here's how I'm going to prove it to you. Right. So it is a process. And the full process is obviously longer than a 30-minute call between you and I, but we can plant the seeds for that today. We can do a little demo of what that would look like today. And then I know that you can run with it. We have some direction to take.
Yeah.
So I also want to say, given that, you also are here on this call, aren't you?
Yes.
You're also here on this call. And it takes a lot of vulnerability, and it takes a lot of bravery to ask a question like this, especially knowing that people are going to see it. Right. And in that, there is a connection that you are going to be making with so many people, more people than you even know, on a very intimate level, for some around a topic that is deeply profound for a lot of people. So your inner child is not so weak. Your inner child is not without resources. And I will tell you, I only booked 8 people for this call series, and I asked 150,000. So
Wow.
you are one of 8 out of 150,000 that managed to get on
I'm
this.
determined.
So I would say that your vital energy and your inner spirit is a heck of a lot stronger and more resourceful than you might think, or at least than your manager might think. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I want to just mirror that for you. So let's move into a fun, playful activity, because I think that this might help put your manager at ease a little bit. And I think it might be a little heavy-handed to try to go for the inner child, just because we know your manager is asking for attention. It may come up, and that's okay. But I think for today, we just start by witnessing. We start by opening a dialogue, and we just find out, okay, well, what do you need to see me do to trust that I can open and I can soften and I can allow these vulnerable parts of myself a little more airtime. Right.
Okay.
All right. So I know you mentioned you have a pen and paper handy, so I'm going to have you access those resources. We're not going to go into a deep trance or meditation. We're going to externalize the conversation today. So I think what I might have you do, maybe just close your eyes for a minute, not too long, and just take a breath, dropping your awareness down into your heart space. And just gently from that heart space, we're going to reach out with an arm, a branch, a tendril of awareness. And we're just going to ask, where does this manager live inside you? In the landscape of your body, where does this overworked, protective part exist in the landscape of your body?
Upper chest.
Okay. And I see you touched it there. That's wonderful. So you're connecting with that. All right. And so you can open your eyes. We know it's there. So that's a first witnessing. It's a first hello. Okay, I see you there. And we're going to be very gentle. We're going to be very gentle. So I might have you imagine we are extending an invitation to this part of you. So we see you. I see you there. And we're opening up a conversation because we see how hard you're working. And we want to soften. We want to create some spaciousness and some flexibility for you to be able to use your resources in other ways that feel more fulfilling. And so you might imagine, I'm going to have you ask that energy in your chest to move along your collarbone, through your shoulders, down your arms, into your hands. I'm just going to invite that energy into your hands because we're going to be working with it. We're going to be having a conversation with it. Just notice it in your hands. Yeah. And you might even shake your hands a little bit like this. And you can feel the blood rushing to your hands. We're building a little bit of energy there. All right. When it feels good, I'm going to have you take whatever hand feels good for you. It doesn't have to be your dominant hand, but whatever feels good. And I'm going to have you just scribble on the page. Just scribble a little tangled mess of lines, whatever it looks like. You're just going to scribble and let that hand move as if the hand is responding to your invitation. And let it move until it feels like the hand wants to stop.
Okay. Stop.
Okay. Feels okay. So the second piece of this is in the same way that we might lay on the mountainside, we might look at the clouds and say, oh, that cloud looks like a turtle, or that cloud looks like a bird. I might have you look at your tangle and notice any shape that you might find there. It may not be obvious. It might be just an impression. You see something popping up already?
It just looks like a blob of cotton wool, just confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is there a shape to that confusion?
It's round, almost oval.
Okay.
It's an untidy round, like an oval.
Okay. So I might have you just with your pen, just emphasize that shape that you find. Even if it's an oval shaped chaos. Because that's something, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, done.
And so now we're gonna play a little imaginatively. And I'm wondering if the chaos wants to go in or if it wants to stay out. I might have you write down a question with your dominant writing hand. And you might write a question, what is your name? And then with your non-dominant writing hand, the hand you don't usually write with, imagine that it answers you.
Okay, your conscience.
Says your conscience? Ooh, that's a big job. Is there anything, and this could be with your dominant hand, is there anything that you would have me know at this time? And then you can allow your non-dominant hand to answer if there's something that we are supposed to know at this time.
I'm keeping it together for you.
I'm keeping it together for you. Thank you for doing that. That is a big job. We might ask, is there anything that you want or need?
Clarity.
You
Well,
might,
clarity just comes to mind because this just looks confused and jumbled.
is it not sure what it wants and needs?
Yes.
Okay. Is there something that we might add to the drawing that could help organize it? Anything in the world that you could add to the drawing that might help organize it?
I just added an eye and the nose, and I'm trying to add a mouth, but I don't see where a mouth fits in. So just an eye and a nose for now.
So there's an eye and a nose. That makes it a lot easier to speak to it, to see it, to sense it, to acknowledge it.
Yes.
I might challenge you. What if you add a mouth, even if you don't see it? What happens if you just add one?
The mouth is internal. It's almost like it's inside the circle. It's not out there, outside of the circle.
Okay. Would you
Like
be
a muted mouth almost.
like a muted mouth. Would you be willing to share your drawing on the screen so I can see it?
Can you see that far?
Yes.
Can you see the eye in the nose, and then the mouth is inside?
So that's interesting. There's a lot of the squiggle. It's a little blurred now because of the background, but I saw it before. There's a lot of the chaos, let's say, or the scribble is in the back of the head, and then we see the face. It's in profile. That's very interesting because right now you're giving me your profile.
My profile. With a big confused head and a silent mouth.
And you're covering your mouth now too. Yeah. I'm wondering is there a sound that this image might make if we were to make the sound?
Maybe a sad song.
A sad
I'm
song?
not sad like someone died, but like regretful.
Regretful, mournful, maybe?
Mournful, yeah.
Yeah. And a muted mouth would hum too, I think. Yes?
Yeah. There are no words as such. It's just a tune.
Maybe kind of a moan or a groan. Yeah. Yeah. So this feels actually like enough for now. One thing I want to offer this part of you something though. I want to give it something that it needs. And I think you noticed what it might need when you said its mouth is muted. It couldn't express what it needed because its mouth was muted. Right? Yeah. So we might play with, how am I going to give voice to this part? And we can play with this creatively or metaphorically. You know, you drew the mouth, but the mouth still felt closed. So this is why I mentioned what sound would it make, because now we're bringing it into the body. We're bringing those symbols, those images, that information we're gleaning in kind of a nonlinear way. We're bringing it into the body. And now it's like, oh, a closed mouth, there's something that needs to be said or expressed or requested. And what's the sound behind that? And it doesn't have to be words, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a lyrical song. Maybe it's just like maybe it's a long, hollow sound, you know, or maybe it's a moan, or maybe it's a, you know, but letting yourself. So the next step to me, it's letting me know that the next step is letting yourself have that, you know, making that sound, even being with it. I'm not going to make you do it on the call.
Thank
but but being present with that, I'm going to call it affective, emotional, energetic experience. What is it to have all this chaos in the back of my head and to feel this, like, this mournful sound that I can't let out, you know, and letting yourself like have that. But the only way we can do that, and the only way your manager is going to let you do that, is if you create safe space and parameters for that first, right? So first we have to acknowledge that it's there. We have to acknowledge that it's worthy of expressing itself, because it is. And then we have to create a safe space in which it can do that, do what it needs to do. So you're in this, we could bring this back to our inner child language. In this way, you're going to become the parent to that part that just needs to let it out, you know? Yeah. How is this landing with you before I go any further?
It sounds very reasonable. It sounds very reasonable. I'm already getting ideas about, I don't know, maybe journaling every morning for a few days, or I don't know. But it resonates.
So journaling is wonderful if that opens the door. Journaling can also be a distraction because it pulls you into your head.
Yeah, and I'm too much in my head already.
You know, and journaling is a wonderful way to process, but it sounds like there's a part of you that's asking for something non-mental, right? Something more embodied. So where can you go? Maybe it's just in your room, you know, or maybe you have friends that can hold space for you, or whatever your resources are, finding a space and creating the time for yourself to just moan. Just like take that image, bring it into the part of your body where you know it resides, and now you're going to move like that image. Or maybe it's like, maybe it's all tangled like this, or maybe it's like a feeling. And then you're just going to like you're going to open that muted mouth and you're going to let it out, and you can breathe through that, whatever it is, primal scream therapy, but we're moving it, right? Because when it comes down to it, it's constricted energy.
It's constricted energy, yeah. No, I just chuckled a bit there because I don't listen to sad songs, and it almost wants me to sing a sad song. I don't even listen to R&B because it's just sad songs. Now I'm being asked to almost sing a sad song.
That's a wonderful, you're already making plans. So you can, I love that, number one, because why don't I let myself listen to this music, right? Because maybe it conjures something that's like, oh, I don't want to feel that, right? So first off, wonderful insight that you're having there. And then immediately there was a part of it that was like, well, maybe if I listened to a sad song, that would help me get in touch with that part, right? And on a body level. And I think you're right. I think that would be a wonderful way to do that. Yeah. Even just as an experiment, you can just say, okay, one song for 3 minutes, that's all I'm doing. And
Yeah.
this is that is a part of the healing process where it is, this is what we call your window of tolerance, which is the range in which you are comfortable, right? So there's smack dab in the middle of the range in which you're comfortable. And then there's right up against the edges, right, of what's comfortable for you. So we might say in this, in this plan, listening to a 3-minute R&B song that's kind of sad, and I'm gonna imagine this drawing in my chest, and I'm gonna open my mouth, and I'm gonna let whatever comes out come out, and I'm only gonna do it for 3 minutes, right? And so now you're sort of, okay, I'm gonna give a little nudge to the edge of my comfort zone, and it's gonna get a little bit wider, and okay, and then maybe the next time you try, you're like, okay, I'll do 6 minutes, right? And so what happens is each time you're opening that range a little bit wider, and you're also letting in some of the emotion that maybe has been kind of lumped under sad or scary or threatening for whatever reason, but is also going to connect you to your vitality, connect you to the essence of your spirit, which doesn't need to be youthful or beautiful to be of value, right? Doesn't need to give too much to prove their worthiness, right? And so every time you push that door, that threshold open a little wider, we get some more of that trickling in. And we allow it in at like a titrated amount, right? A small amount, because it's not going to overwhelm you, but it is going to allow you to connect to, oh, those are some feelings. That's some of my vulnerability that I'm giving more, I'm making more allowances for. And as you do that in time, it's going to soften your constrictions. And as you do that in time, it's going to convince your inner critic or manager or protector, oh, okay, so she can handle some of these feelings coming in without shutting them off entirely, right? So if she's challenged in a relationship where someone's demanding that she be more emotionally vulnerable than she's used to being, now I know she can handle it, right? So this is, does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm surprised such a short space of time.
Yeah. Well, yes, this work can go pretty deep pretty quickly, but also I just want you to know that it doesn't have to move fast, right? Because getting to the outcome, getting it done is kind of still a symptom of that, like needing it to look a certain way. Whereas we can allow ourselves to be gentle with the process. It can be an easy ride, so to speak. We don't want to throw you in the deep end. We're going to slowly just allow yourself to soften, and like a petal, like flower, just slowly opening in the warmth of the sun, instead of like pulling at the seedlings and the sprouts, right? We're just going to be the sun. We're going to be the earth. We're going to be the water. We're going to gently let Tosi bloom. And it's going to be a softening.
That would be nice. I'm tired of being hard also.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it's wonderful that just by being on this call, you're giving yourself permission. And this is a wonderful demonstration to the parts of yourself that you are here. You're invested in this, and you have what it takes. 100%. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Absolutely.
I will try the songs for a few days early in the morning.
Sure. And if you have any other questions or anything in follow up to this, I'm going to send you a recording of our call together so that you have it, the full recording. And I'll also send you some links to some meditations that I have on YouTube that might help you with a similar process. And what else was I going to say to you? If anything comes up, you can also post things in the Facebook group and tag me, and I can respond to that as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.